Hello everybody. I've had this squirrel in my deep freeze for a while. You can see he's got quite a bit of damage to the side of him here, so I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with him. However, the other day I was going for a walk and I found this laying on the ground. It's an old hollowed out log that a squirrel had been living in, so I cut this off, brought it back. I thought that that squirrel would be a perfect candidate to mount coming out of this hole. For this mount, I really only need the front half of the squirrel. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of wipe some of that blood and stuff out of the fur. For that I'm just using baby wipes. I find they're one of the best things you can use to clean up some of the stuff on taxidermy or the animals before you get started mounting them. This one here I'm probably going to have to give a full wash to because it's pretty matted in there, but at least it gets some of it off before you get started. So see where I'm working with anyway. So yeah, so I'm gonna cut this guy probably right about in here somewhere, and we'll skin out the front half and then we'll end up using the back half for something else. But we'll start off here, so you guys can see this a little better. So for this, it's already, the stomach wall is already broken. But we're going to try and avoid as much additional mess as we can. So we're just going to be really careful, use our knife, kind of start splitting that hide without trying to rip it any more than it already is. Use our fingers as much as we can, just kind of go between the stomach wall and the hide, and then use our knife to cut the hide. Just keep that going all the way till we get all the way around. Something like that. And then we're just going to work this off with our fingers. Just like that. And then we're going to flesh this guy out, and then I'm going to wash him. Because he is very, very matted. Too much fleshing to do on this guy, considering half of it's not there. just going to skin these right down to the paws. Cut off as much meat as we can. There, that's good enough. This next thing I gotta do with this guy is wash the blood out of the fur. So for that, I've got some cool water. It can be like room temperature. You just don't want it to make it too hot or it may cause the fur to start slipping. And then I've added a bunch of salt into it. There's no real specific amount, just measure with your heart. So I'm just gonna put that guy in there. You can see we just kind of swish him around. Start with the fur side in, and then we'll flip him out. So his fur side's out. And same thing, just kind of work all that and just rinse the fur out of it, or the blood out of the fur. Look, that's looking good already. A lot of times it doesn't take much. If it's really bad, you may have to add soap into it and then let it soak and kind of work it out a little bit. But with this guy here, that looks like that's all we really needed to do, is just give it a quick rinse and clean it up pretty good. So what I'm going to do at this point is put him back onto the stretching board. Put the fur out. That. I'll just take the air compressor and kind of blow as much water out of the fur as I can. And then we can move on to the next part there after he's dried a little bit more. So. We're going to make the body now using our wood wool and twine. Take these off at this point. So for this body, I'm just going to make it slightly longer than it needs to be. I want to have a bit extra inside so I can probably screw into it or something like that to attach it to the log. I want to make sure I give myself enough to work with for that. But as far as the actual squirrel goes, you can see like the body only has to be about this long because most of it is going to be inside the log. But I'm going to make it slightly longer just to make sure I have enough to work with. I also have to make sure that I'm wrapping it very, very tightly because it needs to be dense enough that when I put a screw or whatever anchor method I use to attach to the inside of the log, that it actually has enough density there that the screw will attach to it. So probably about that long. there, so. Somewhere about there. And then for head, cut that off there. Run that wire up inside like that. That should work. And I'm just going to put a bit of super glue on that wire just to help anchor it in place. Of course, I'm almost out of super glue. Like that. That's going to bend this, and the arms are going to come off of here, kind of poke out the hole. Maybe a little bit more. And that'll give me plenty down here that I can screw into through the log to actually anchor him, so when he's poking out of that hole, he's not going to be flopping around or anything like that. Now that we've given this guy a chance to dry off a bit, I'm going to put him in some borax. That's going to help dry that hide out even more. Just got to make sure you don't miss any spots, like under the armpits and things like that, where there's a lot of times there's the hide will fold over on itself. You want to make sure you get good coverage under everything. Around the face, because there's lots of meatier stuff around the lips and things like that. We want to make sure we get good coverage on that. Shake off the excess. And then we are going to do that glue method again that we've done before. That seems to work very well. Alright, so I'm gonna take the lips and kind of roughly put them in place where I want them. And then take some super glue. Put that kind of along the inner lip line. And then put the two together. Gently squeeze that, trying to not glue your tweezers or your fingers to the squirrel as best you can. A little bit more there. Nice thing with super glue is it sticks very, very well to skin or hide, so it doesn't take much to connect it and hold it actually together. Next thing I'm going to do is just put a little bit more borax everywhere that we just glued, because that's going to stick to any the super glue that's still wet on there, and it'll help prevent it from sticking to anything else that we don't want it to in the meantime. So we got that done. We're going to just take these off. I'm going to wire up those front legs, rebuild them. Probably about that much. I'm just going to stick this wire kind of through the meaty part, like right about in here, right through on both. Make sure you don't stick it right through the hide. And then pull those legs back out. There's our wire. Take any more last minute meat chunks off there if there's any ones you missed. But as long as you get a good coating of borax on there and you've taken most of it off, this borax will dehydrate and kind of mummify anything that's left on there. Very similar to if you're doing a bird and you pull the leg bones or the wing bones out, it's the same idea. So, and to build up the arms, I'm just going to use tape. No need to overcomplicate it. Just like that, we have a squirrel arm. And same on the other side. Chunk there. Like that, we have another squirrel arm. So at this point, we are ready to pull this guy back over top of the form. And I'm just going to put some glue on the mouth area, mostly. This helps keep the mouth from opening up or anything during drying if any of that super glue happens to let go. This glue will help hold everything in place, shifting around the nose too. Keep that from shifting around. Give that a good coating around there. And then pull those arms back right side out. And I push the wire all the way back through. It's just to the end of the arm. And then you're going to put the head on. Start working that hide down. There we go. And then I'm going to take that wire and push it all the way through the form. Give it a bend over. Too much. And pull it back through so it kind of locks into it. And I'll do the same on the other side. Work the hide down the rest of the way, make sure it's all tight. And then I'm just going to take some of these T-pins and pin the hide down on the form. So that'll hold that in place for now until we get everything else done. And then we're going to pin the face in place. So for the face, you want to just make sure that everything's straight. And not twisted or any of that. We're going to tuck our eyeballs on there, all the inner eyelid. We're going to tuck that back inside on both. You have to work somewhat quickly, not crazy. That glue that I put around the mouth dries fairly quickly, so you kind of want to make sure that's in place sooner than later. But you got to make sure your eyes are squared away first. Otherwise you'll get the mouth all pinned up and then realize you have the mouth all crooked. We're just going to pin that mouth a little bit. Just while it dries, make sure everything's in the right position. Don't take too many pins. Make sure your nose is straight and even, centered. This one eye doesn't want to sit really nice for some reason today, but nothing a bunch of pins won't solve. Looking a bit better there. Just keep working at it till you get it to sit where it needs to be. Better to take some extra time now. Get everything perfect, and then let it dry, and then have to rehydrate everything and try and fix it after the fact if you didn't get it right the first time. So looking better. Biggest thing is symmetry. Unless your individual animal has something naturally asymmetrical about them, like an old injury or something like that, when you're mounting stuff you want it to be symmetrical, because that's typically what animals are like. The eyes are typically the same distance forward, they're typically the same height and stuff like that. So like I said, unless your animal specifically has a deformity that makes it asymmetrical, you want to take the time and make sure that everything looks even, otherwise it's going to look off. Oh. Perfect. So at this point, I'm going to take a string. I'm just going to wrap this around here. Try not to wrap up my pins. Tie that up good and tight. This is all going to be inside the log, so you're not going to see it. But that's going to help hold that hide where it needs to be on the form. At this point, I'm going to take all the pins out of the bottom here, because that string we wrapped around there is going to hold it in place. And then we're going to put him into the hole kind of backwards. I'm going to squeeze those arms together a little bit. See how I want to do this. Pull those pins out of the ears and pin that after. So I might just move this arm a little bit in like that. Maybe have the one hanging down a little bit, the other one kind of perched up. This is where you kind of can just have fun with it. Just try different positions, see what looks good. I don't mind that. Looks like he's kind of trying to jump out of the hole or something like that. Might try put both arms up. He's kind of just got both meeting on the ledger and see how that looks. I think I like it better with the one arm kind of extended a little bit. So that's the thing. That's the fun part about taxidermy with a lot of these things. You can try different things. You can move it around, kind of position it how you think it's going to look good, and just keep playing with it and until you get it looking the way you want it to. So try turning his head a little bit. Squirrel's in need of a blow dry. He's a little bit matted still, but I can kind of play with this a little bit. I think I'm gonna turn his head a little bit, like kind of come out and then turn his head slightly. I think it's gonna look pretty good. Something like that. I think I've got a position that I'm happy with that squirrel now. Looking pretty good, I think. So we're gonna anchor this guy. So for that, we're gonna go kind of to the back part here. And probably somewhere in about there, we're gonna drill a hole. And we are going to take a screw and try and hold inside there while I screw into that. It looks like it held. So for the screws, I'm using these brown like pressure treated board screws, but they blend in fairly well. So I'm presuming when this is displayed, somebody's going to put it with that back to a wall or something anyway, but if they have it somewhere where you can see the back, at least it's not obvious there's a big screw there. So that's looking pretty good. There's inside, that's where the form, or what the form looks like. So the screw just goes in through here and into that form, holding it in place there. So that should hold that in place. He shouldn't go too far. So I'm just gonna cut, those wires are sticking out of the paws. I'm gonna cut those off short because we don't need those. So for the one, I'm just gonna leave it kind of hanging down, like he's sort of just relaxing, his arm dangling. The other one, I'm gonna pin that in place. And I might put some glue on the back of that paw and kind of push that paw up against here so the paw is glued there as well, just again to help anchor it. So I grab a little bit of glue. I'm just gonna put a little bit on the back side of that paw. Take one pin, pin it in place while wait for that glue to dry, and that'll help that stay where it's supposed to. double check the eyes, make sure they didn't get adjusted at all. Pulling them in and out of that log 100 times while I'm trying to figure out how I want them positioned. Looking good. Just give this one ear and hold it kind of where it needs to be. This other one. That's looking pretty squirrely to me. Give him a bit of a twist, just to make sure his head's straight. One eyeball's being a real biatch. There, finally. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to let this guy dry, and then we'll work on filling in the top part and the bottom part here to complete it. So I'm just going to let this guy dry, and we'll come back to it after that. Squirrel's at a few days to dry now, so it still needs more drying obviously, but it's starting to kind of lock into place, so I don't feel as bad about moving him around a bunch. So next thing I'm going to do is I've got a bunch of the inside kind of punky rotten parts, so I'm going to glue those back in the top here, and that's going to fill in this hole there. So to do that, I'm just going to start off, pour a bunch of glue down into there, kind of work that around in a circle. This is kind of a messy process, but that's all right. Glue is easy enough to clean up. Pour a little bit more in here. Essentially, I'm just kind of letting this run all the way inside here, all the way around. And there's no real magic to this part. It's literally just start kind of stuffing, fill it with glue and start stuffing pieces in there until the whole thing is filled in. It doesn't have to look perfect because in nature, none of this stuff is perfect either, so as long as it's kind of filled in, that's all that really matters. So you can see how that's starting to look. Just keep stuffing pieces, because that's essentially what it looks like. It's just like it's a bunch of rotten wood that's kind of half stuffed in there and filled up. So just fill that in, and at least it blocks that off. It looks a little more like the tree got broken off, and that's what was left. So There, I'll give that a chance to dry. And then what I'm going to do after that is take some matte clear coat and spray that whole thing, kind of saturate it pretty good, and that'll soak into that punky wood and kind of really lock it into place and make it a little stiffer so it's not so flaky and won't fall off all the time. Like you can see, this is just kind of turning to dust. And this will help prevent that from happening now that it's glued into the log. You can see all those little pieces are still kind of flaking out of there, but that's okay. This will lock them into place. You want to make sure you do this in a really well ventilated area, like a completely enclosed garage. That way it won't affect your lungs. Now, as for the bottom, I've got this guy here. I think it's like a coaster you can buy from Michael's. Just stained it kind of a dark brown color. What I'm going to do is just put some glue along the bottom lip here. You can see kind of right there. Just do that all the way around. And this coaster is almost the perfect size. Just sit on there like that. What that's going to do is it will block off that bottom so you can't see down or up into it if you're looking at it. And it also makes sure that I have a completely flat bottom, so this is going to sit nice, because you want to make sure when it's sitting on a shelf it's not going to be wobbly at all. So that's going to just make sure that that has a totally flat surface to sit on. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll probably throw a couple brad nails or something up in there as well, just to make sure it doesn't move, but we'll see how solid it is. With that glue it shouldn't move, but we'll check once it's all dry. It's been a couple weeks. Squirrel's looking pretty good. He's pretty well dry. Everything's kind of rock solid into place. So we're going to take these pins out, and we're going to see how much painting we need to do on this guy. Be careful when you're taking these pins out. Make sure you don't get too rammy with it, especially in these thinner skinned animals. If you get too aggressive, you can rip the hide. So at this point this is looking pretty good. I'm just going to give it a quick hit with the air compressor, kind of knock the dust off of it, and then we will do a little bit of paint, and this guy will be done. This guy's not going to take much paint. We're just going to take a little bit of black or dark kind of gray and go around just the edge of the eye. Carefully you don't go too far into the white part of the fur. You want to just get the edge where a lot of times it kind of dries a little bit pale. So a little bit of black around there will help bring the life back into those eyes, and then a little bit on the mouth. And this I'm just very lightly kind of highlighting where the mouth is. I'm not making it look like he has black lipstick. Just kind of darkening up that mouth a little bit where the lip line is. Just like that. Looks pretty good. And kind of underneath the nose there a little bit. You can see I barely got any paint on here. It's just kind of to give it some highlights. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that's looking. Touch up there. Perfect. Here's our completed squirrel crawling out of that knot hole. Pretty happy with the way this guy turned out. And just shows you, even if you have a specimen that's not in the best shape to start with, you can still make use out of it.